everyone, hope you're doing well. So about a year ago, there was a video that went viral on YouTube, and it was from financial expert and TV personality Dave Ramsey.
There's a high correlation between generosity and financial success. And it's not that financial success allows people to be generous, it's that generosity causes people to be people.
Dave Ramsey has been a financial expert for 40, 50 years, something crazy like that. And he made a video about why you should not list a car on Turo. And I thought it was really interesting. It's only a couple minutes long. So in today's video, we're going to watch it together, break it down. And actually, he made some valid points that I think we should consider and discuss. Now, if you're not familiar with Dave Ramsey has been a financial expert. He's been on the radio. If you're a boomer, you might remember listening to him on AM Talk Radio. And if you're a millennial like me, you might remember listening to him from the backseat of your parents' car. I remember my mom and dad would listen to him all the time on our way to school. Now, actually, when I was in college and I took on some really stupid credit card debt and I was trying to figure out how to pay it off, I came across one of his financial strategies, which is called the avalanche strategy to pay off debt. And that's actually what I used to pay down all of my debt, and I've been debt free since. So thank you, Dave Ramsey, for that. And he is actually quite smart. So I'm really interested to know what you guys are going to think about his take on why you shouldn't do Turo. So we're going to watch together. Now, before we get into doing that, you can congratulate me for paying off all my debt by hitting that like and subscribe button down below. So let's get into it and let's watch together.
It's an app called Turo. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like this peer-to-peer car rental service, like Airbnb for cars. And so I've been thinking a lot about getting a car that I can put up on this app and manage it. You know, best case, I'll be making money on it, or, you know, even if it doesn't do so well, at least I'll come out of college with a car paid off. Or very worst case, if it's just a total flop, I can sell it for a little bit of a loss. But if it lets me do something with cars, I make money off of it. I'm trying to see what you think about that. If that's, you know, something risky that's worth taking, and just to see your thoughts on that.
So you're currently in college right now, is that?
Yes.
How are you paying for college?
So my parents are paying most of it. I do have a little bit of student loans.
Okay. And will you be taking on more student loans to complete?
It's $5,000 in loans per year.
Yeah, no. Then right now, you're not buying a car, man. I want you to cash flow the rest of your college experience.
Okay, so really interesting so far. We have a college kid who's calling in, and right now he's currently taking on $5,000 per year in student loans. Now, student loans, whole different topic. We know tons of stuff going on with that. But that is a very interesting scenario. Now, right off the bat, what I noticed about Zach is that he's actually a very smart person because, first and foremost, he did think about his exit strategies if it didn't work well, and best case scenario, if it did work well, he would end up being out of college with a paid off vehicle, which is not a bad way to think about it. And he also knew that if it didn't work out, he could sell that vehicle for a bit of a loss. However, I do agree with the verdict that Zach should not do Turo, not just yet, at least not while he's in school, mainly because he is taking on additional debt through student loans. And that is already kind of a disadvantage when you're at that age and you still have to get a job and pay that down. So I would agree with their sentiment on that. And I would say, Zach, probably hold off on doing Turo until you get that debt situated. So let's hear what else they have to say.
I'm like you. I love cars too, man. And it sounds great. The idea sounds great, but it sounds great once you have the cash to actually cash flow that experience. I don't want you putting money into a car and you're steady borrowing money over here to complete your education. So I'm going to say no. Sounds horrible to you, but what I'm also going to tell you, I promise you down the road, if you listen to Dave and I by saying invest into yourself, cash flow the rest of your college experience, get your savings up, then once you build a solid foundation, then if you want to explore that in the next 2 years after you graduate college, by all means, go try it out. But the key thing in there is pay cash for the car. You know, that's going to be the bottom line.
pay cash for the car. Okay, so I do personally disagree with that. And it could be situational, but I really think that when you are starting a business, and maybe you have to be a bit more mature to be in this position, but paying cash for a car doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially when you can typically get a loan on a vehicle for very, very low interest rates during most times. Maybe not right now in particular, but I personally believe in leveraging other people's money in order to grow. And why spend all that money up front when you can get a pretty low risk loan on a vehicle? But that's just my personal take. Now, it could be different if you are young, you're trying to avoid having debt, and you may want to start off with a much cheaper car that you could pay out of pocket, so it's totally risk free. I think that scenario does exist, but I would love to know what you guys think about paying full cash for a vehicle, paying it all outright versus financing it. And if you were giving Zach advice, what would you guys advise? So let's listen to the last little bit of this call.
So
Right.
when I was
So,
your age,
well-
when I was your age, I was as entrepreneurial as you are. You've got a real passion for looking around making money. You not only like cars, you like to work a deal.
Yeah.
And you like to make the whole process of this system intrigues you. I can hear it. And it intrigues me. I'm
sure.
with you. I completely understand that. And one of the things I looked at doing when I was in school, and I wasn't able to do it, because I guess God protected me, was I was going to finance a whole bunch of these machines at the market that put air in your car, tire. And you put a quarter or whatever in there, and it turns on the air compressor and puts air in your tire. And I was going to borrow like $10,000 and put these machines everywhere. And of course, that was going to make me rich. It would have not done that at all. It would have caused me to take my eye off the ball. I would not have graduated from school because I would have been screwing around with freaking air.
Yeah.
Literally. And so looking back on it, when I look back on it, it really looks silly. But when I had the entrepreneurial froth, when I had the fever, and I was running a fever, and I thought this was going to be my way to wealth, I was all about air machines, and I look back on it, it's almost humorous now. But and that, honestly, what you're talking about doesn't sound that dumb, as dumb as my idea was. But when you look back on it, it may feel dumb.
Yeah.
As opposed to what Anthony's saying, use your money on Zach.
Yeah.
Zach is a better deal than a trendy app to Airbnb your car.
Okay, so that's essentially the gist of the video. And again, I'm so curious to know what you guys think about this, so make sure you comment down below. Now, I think what's interesting about this is that they are telling him to focus on school, focus on your studies. And I have maybe a bit of a biased opinion about this. So for me personally, I went to college for business. I got my bachelor's in business with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. And when I was in college is actually when I started my first business. Now, I think that as a college student or just someone that's young, there's so many ways these days to start new businesses to where you don't have to take out a loan and you don't have to take on any additional debt. And I think college is a great time to start a business because you're young, you have tons of energy, you're curious about the world, you want to learn and you want to explore. And when you're young, you have the ability to take on more risk versus when time goes on and you get older and you're married, you have a family, you have kids, and you have more responsibility in your life. So I'm a major advocate for trying things when you're young, trying different business ideas, but doing it in a smart way to where you're not taking on debt that can end up drowning you and really setting you back in life. I think that that is a major point of concern and something that you really, really want to pay attention to. So for me in college, I had lots of really dumb ideas and tons of stuff that really failed. I went to school full time, I was working full time, and in my spare time, I was trying new businesses. And I remember one of the first businesses that I had was building websites. I had no clue how to do it. I remember one day going on GoDaddy.com. They had a website website builder that was so easy to use. Everything was just drag and drop. I was like, okay, well, I need customers for this. And in my spare time, I would literally sit around Googling businesses that were nearby, cold calling them, asking if they needed a website and if I could build one for them. And to my shock and amazement, there were so many people that would say yes. And I would literally just sit there and build these websites, having no web development experience, no design experience, but it was just something I was curious about, something that I wanted to explore. And it was cash flow positive. It didn't require any investment from me. I didn't have to take on any loans or anything like that. Okay, so enough about my college experiences, and let's wrap up by watching the last bit of this video.
That you don't even own yet.
Absolutely.
And put money in Zach.
Yeah.
And that you'll have plenty of chances to make mistakes with your entrepreneurial zeal later.
Yeah. No, he's right.
I've made a living making mistakes. I've made more mistakes than I have done smart things.
Yeah.
Many, many more. But I've tried to do them in such a way that they did not cause me to take my eye off the ball, and they were not fatal errors when I failed at them.
Yeah.
And so there's too many things wrong with this story. You're going to go into debt.
Yep.
You're going to go further into debt for school, which you shouldn't be doing. You ought to be working your way around that. You're going to take your eye off the ball. You're going to be worried about this instead of your studies. You're going to be screwing around with this stupid app. And, entrepreneurs, Zach, we all are a little bit ADD.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
There's always something getting our attention, and that's what's happening to you here. And it's easy for us to sit over here on the outside looking in and see that, but you're in the middle of it and you got the fever. So please don't do it. No. That's the answer to your question.
And it's a headache possibly waiting too, Dave. And I really want Zach to hear me. One of my friends does that, and he says, Anthony, man, one of my cars got into a car accident. And the last thing I want you to be worried about is school, now this business, and then now an accident.
Yeah, and it's in your name.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what insurance is.
Insurance has to go up because it's peer-to-peer. So it's like,
it doesn't cover it at all.
Oh.
There's some companies that won't cover delivering pizza.
Yeah.
They won't, because that's a commercial activity as far as they're concerned. You wreck your car while you're delivering pizza, they won't cover you. And so you need to look at all that, and that's, or don't look at all of it because you're not doing it.
Right.
That's a better idea.
All right, so basically the video wraps up right there. So just to correct a little bit of misinformation there, your insurance does not go up because it's peer-to-peer. For those of you that have been hosting on the Turo platform, you know that Turo does offer their own host protection plans while your car is out on a rental, and basically covers anything that happens while it's out, as long as you follow their system and properly check in and out of the vehicle. Now, it is true that if you take on something as extreme as putting a car out on the Turo marketplace while you're going to school, it can definitely cause distractions. I cannot imagine having a car get into an accident or total during finals week. That could definitely be very, very tough. So my advice for Zach in this situation is hold off on doing a business like Turo while you're in college, and it will definitely be a good idea to do a couple years down the line, especially when you get your student loan situation squared away and you get that debt paid off. You should never take on more debt when you already have debt that you need to handle that's pre-existing. But what you can do in college is definitely test out other businesses that don't have startup costs. I love doing businesses that can be bootstrapped, that take very little resources. And that's actually how I got started on Turo as well. I remember I had a smart car that I leased for $99 a month, which was just crazy. Smart cars had just come out. I leased it for myself because I just needed a car to commute in, and I was working from home at the time with my last business, and so I listed it. So my cost was extremely low. Plus, I had savings, I had a safety net, and I was in a good position to where I could take that risk. So I think for anyone looking to get started on Turo, you always want to make sure that you do your homework and you do all the research so you understand your scope of risk that you might potentially have. Very, very important. And if you want to learn more about that, check out my website, powerhost.club, and I will walk you through the whole thing so that you can go into it with as little risk as possible. So this was the video that went viral from Dave Ramsey. I'm dying to know what you guys think about it. So make sure you comment down below, and I'm going to be chatting with you guys. And if you want to learn more about different things that can potentially expose you to risk, check out my last video talking about where Turo hosts potentially get shadow banned and you have crazy claims experiences. And it's a really fun video kind of breaking down different incidents that can take place on the Turo platform. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Once again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I will catch you guys down in the comment section.